We'll manage.
We always manage. Managing is all we've ever done.
Sebastian had believed her once. But tonight, 20 years of quiet failure spoke louder than any warning.
We'll manage.
We always manage. Managing is all we've ever done.
Sebastian had believed her once. But tonight, 20 years of quiet failure spoke louder than any warning.
Sebastian's hands would not stop shaking. He stood at the edge of the market square, watching the last of the crowd drift toward the wealthy potter's stall, and he understood, with a clarity that hurt more than hunger ever had, that he had failed again. Not one pot, not a single coin. His fingers cracked and stained with clay he could no longer afford to fire properly, curled into fists at his sides. Sebastian,
We'll manage.
We always
he turned.
manage.
Martha stood
Managing
behind
is
him,
all we've
a
ever
basket of unsold pots balanced against her hip, her eyes soft
We'll
in the way
manage.
they always were
We
when she
always
was
manage.
trying not to let him see
Managing
her
is all
worry.
we've ever done.
We'll manage, she said. We
We'll
always
manage.
manage,
We always manage.
he answered.
Managing
Managing is all we've ever done. That night, long after Martha had fallen asleep, and the fire had burned down to embers, Sebastian sat awake, staring at the dark shape of the hills beyond their window. Beyond those hills lay the silent valley, a place every child in the village had been warned about since before they could walk. Elder Elizabeth's voice echoed in his memory, the same warning she gave every year at the harvest gathering. No bird sings there, no insect crawls there. Even your own footsteps will betray you with silence. Do not go. He had believed her once. Tonight, exhaustion and 20 years of quiet failure spoke louder than any warning. If you're watching, subscribe and like this video now, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from, because you will not believe what Sebastian is about to find. He left before the sun rose, his oldest, most ordinary clay pot wrapped in cloth under his arm, and he told no one, not even Martha. The forest thinned the closer he came to the valley, and then it did something worse than thin. It went quiet. Not the ordinary quiet of a sleeping village. A quiet that pressed against his ears like water. He stopped walking to listen for his own footsteps, and heard nothing, as though the earth itself had decided not to acknowledge that he existed. "This is madness," he whispered, and even his own voice sounded thin, swallowed before it could travel more than a few feet. He almost turned back. He told himself later that he almost turned back. Then he saw the spring. It sat in a hollow at the valley's center, water so clear it seemed to hold light rather than reflect it, ringed by pale stones that looked as though they had been placed deliberately by something patient. Sebastian knelt at its edge. His reflection stared back at him, tired and older than his years, and for a moment he simply looked at the man he had become. Then, without knowing why, he dipped his ordinary clay pot into the water. It came out changed. The clay had tightened and smoothed itself into something that no human hand could have shaped. A deep, flawless glaze, the color of a sunset caught mid-collapse, patterns curling across its surface like they had grown there rather than been painted. Sebastian's breath caught in his throat. He turned it over in his hands, searching for a crack, a flaw, anything that would explain what he was seeing. There was nothing. It was perfect. He told himself it was luck. A trick of the water, a mineral in the clay, anything but what some small, frightened part of him already suspected. He carried it to the trading post 3 villages over rather than his own market, telling himself this was caution and not shame. A wealthy trader lifted it to the light, turned it slowly, and went very still. "Where did you learn to make this?" "It's a family technique," Sebastian said, the lie coming easier than he expected. The trader paid him more silver than Sebastian had held in his entire life and pressed a second bag into his hands besides, saying only, "Bring me more. Whatever you want for them, I'll pay it." Sebastian walked home that evening with his empty stomach forgotten, his mind already circling back toward the valley, toward the spring, toward the question he wasn't ready to ask himself yet. The question of what, exactly, that water had taken in exchange for what it had given. Because as he crossed back through the silent hollow one last time before descending toward home, he was certain, almost certain, that the surface of the spring had rippled once, gently, though there was no wind, and no stone had fallen, and nothing else in that valley had moved at all. Someone, or something, had been watching him the entire time. Sebastian went back 3 nights later. Then again. Then again after that, until the pattern stopped feeling like a decision and started feeling like breathing. Each time, the valley received him the same way, with that unbearable silence, the pale stones ringing the spring like watchful eyes, the water sitting still until his ordinary clay touched it and came out transformed. He stopped bringing 1 pot at a time. He brought 3, 4, 5, wrapped carefully in cloth, and each one emerged flawless, unrepeatable, more beautiful than the last. Word of the potter with the impossible hand spread faster than Sebastian could have imagined. Traders no longer waited for him to bring pieces to them. They came to his door, standing in a line that stretched past his gate before the sun had fully risen. Men who had once looked past him at the market now called his name like a blessing. "Sebastian, Sebastian, I need 3 for the chief's household. I'll pay double whatever he's asking." Martha watched it happen with an expression Sebastian couldn't quite read. Pride, tangled up with something that looked almost like fear. "You won't tell me where you're learning this," she said one evening, not quite a question. "Does it matter, Martha? Look at us." He gestured at the new roof over their heads, the sacks of grain stacked against the wall, the necklace of amber beads he had bought her without a second thought. "We are no longer the family that goes hungry. No," she agreed softly. "But you go somewhere at night, and you come back a different man each time. A little more tired, a little more far away." He didn't answer that. He didn't have an answer he was willing to say out loud. If this story has you sitting on the edge of your seat already, do me a favor and drop a comment right now. And like the video, because what Sebastian is about to hear will change how you see everything that's happened so far. It was on the 7th visit that the spring finally spoke. Sebastian had just lowered a pot into the water when the surface began to move without his hands touching it. First a ripple, then a slow, deliberate churn. Water folding over itself like something breathing beneath it. He stumbled back, his heart slamming against his ribs, and watched as a shape rose from the center of the spring. She was beautiful in a way that made his chest ache, skin that seemed to hold the same impossible light as the water itself, dark eyes that found his immediately and did not let go, a voice when it came that was gentle enough to make him forget, for one dangerous second, to be afraid. "You have come back many times, Potter," she said, "more than any man before you. Who? What are you?" "I am the one who keeps this valley," she said, smiling as though the question amused her. "You may call me the Keeper if you need a name for what has made you rich." Sebastian's mouth had gone dry. The water, the pots. Is it truly magic, or it is a gift?" The Keeper said, and there was something in the way she said gift that made the word sound sharpened at the edges. "Every masterpiece you carry from this spring is beautiful because it is not made from clay alone. It is made from time, Sebastian. 1 year taken from somewhere else, given to your pot instead." He stared at her. "Taken from where?" "From someone," she said simply. "A stranger, a neighbor. It does not choose who, it only takes." The words landed slowly, The way cold water soaks through cloth before you feel it against your skin. You mean, someone is losing a year of their life. Every time, she confirmed, unbothered. 1 year, traded quietly, so quietly they will never know why they suddenly feel older than they should. Then I won't do it again, Sebastian said. And even as he said it, he heard how thin it sounded, how much like a man trying to convince himself rather than her. The keeper only smiled, and it was that smile, patient, certain, already knowing what his answer would truly be, that frightened him more than anything else in that valley ever had. You may stop whenever you wish, she said, but understand what stopping means. Every year you have taken from others is owed. If the giving ever ends, the debt does not disappear. It returns, all of it, at once, to you. Sebastian felt the ground shift beneath a life he thought he had finally built solid. He wanted to run. He wanted to throw the pot into the water and never come back, to tell Martha everything, to burn every beautiful thing he had ever sold and beg forgiveness from people who didn't even know his name. But his hand was already closing around the bag of silver at his hip. Payment from 3 days ago, payment he had already spent on grain, on a new roof, on the amber beads around his wife's throat. And he understood, standing at the edge of that unnaturally still water, that whatever he wanted to believe about himself, he had already accepted the first payment. There was no version of tomorrow where he could give that back. He told himself it would only be a little longer. A season, perhaps. Enough to build something solid enough that stopping wouldn't feel like falling. So Sebastian went back to the valley, and back again, and the pots kept coming out flawless, and the silver kept piling higher than any potter in the region's history had ever seen. He built a compound with a fence taller than any other in the village. He gave Martha a room of her own to keep her woven cloths in, servants to grind her millet, sandals instead of bare feet on the market path. And slowly, without anyone quite noticing the shape of it, the village began to change too. It started small. Old Mama Nkechi, who had always been the strongest woman at the well, began arriving late, her steps slower, her back more bent than anyone remembered. Just tired, she said, waving off the concern. An old woman gets tired. Then it was the children. A boy named Kwame, who used to outrun every other child to the stream, sat by the roadside one afternoon, looking suddenly grey with exhaustion, his mother pressing a hand to his forehead and finding no fever, no explanation, nothing but a tiredness that seemed to have come from nowhere. He was fine yesterday, she told the healer, her voice cracking. He was fine yesterday. The healer had no answer, neither did the one after that. By the 3rd month, it was harder to ignore. A farmer strong enough to carry 2 sacks of yams on his shoulders woke one morning with hair gone entirely white, his hands trembling too badly to lift even one. A young mother nursing her first child found grey threading through her braids almost overnight. The village well became a place of quiet, worried conversation instead of laughter. Something is wrong with this village, Chidinma, the market woman, murmured one morning, watching another neighbor pass by looking a decade older than she had the week before. Something is very wrong. No one connected it to Sebastian. Why would they? He was their miracle, not their curse. The man whose success they pointed to with pride, whose pots they boasted about owning, whose wealth felt like proof that their village, too, could be blessed. If your chest is tightening right now the way mine is just writing this, like you already suspect what's coming, hit like on this video and tell me below. Do you think Sebastian even knows what he's truly costing them? Sebastian knew. He knew with every pot he lowered into that spring, every ripple that answered him, every silver coin that felt slightly heavier in his palm than it should have. He told himself the same lie each time. 1 year, just one. They will hardly notice it. Nobody's whole life, just a single year. But single years, taken enough times from enough people, do not stay small. He began avoiding the well in the mornings. He began taking the long path around the market rather than walking past Mama Nkechi's stall, unable to meet the confusion in her eyes when she asked him gently if he knew what could possibly be making so many of them feel so suddenly old. He told himself it was coincidence. He told himself the valley's price and the village's suffering were two separate things, unconnected, unrelated. Even as some quiet, honest part of him understood exactly how connected they were. It was on an ordinary morning, steam still rising off his washing water, that Sebastian first noticed something had gone the other way. He caught his reflection in the still basin outside his door and stopped, water dripping, forgotten, from his hands. His face looked younger, not simply well-rested, not simply prosperous. The lines that had begun creasing his forehead in his 30s, the grey that had started at his temples 2 winters ago, both gone, smoothed away as though the years themselves had been peeled back overnight. He stared at himself for a long, cold moment, his own hands trembling now for an entirely different reason than exhaustion. "Sebastian?" Martha's voice came from behind him. "You've been standing there so long. Is something the matter?" He turned to answer her, and the words caught somewhere behind his teeth, because he had just understood. Truly understood, in a way the keeper's warning had never quite made real to him until this moment. Exactly where all those stolen years had been going all along. Not simply out into the village at random. Into him. Jane had been counting. She hadn't meant to start counting. It had simply happened, the way small suspicions grow teeth without permission. First with Mama Nkechi's sudden stoop, then with Kwame's exhaustion, then with the farmer's white hair, until Jane found herself lying awake at night with a list forming in her mind, each name attached to a date, each date circling back again and again to the same pattern. Every time Sebastian arrived at the market with a new masterpiece pot, someone in the village aged overnight. She told herself it was foolishness, coincidence dressed up as meaning, the kind of thing frightened people invented when they needed an explanation for something that had none. But foolishness didn't usually keep her awake until the fire burned to ash, and it didn't usually send her 3 nights later, creeping along the edge of the forest with her shawl pulled tight around her shoulders, following the potter she had known her whole life toward a place she had been warned about since she was small enough to be carried. The silence of the valley swallowed her the moment she crossed into it. She pressed herself behind a cluster of pale stones, heart hammering loud enough that she was certain the whole valley could hear it, and watched Sebastian kneel at the spring's edge, lower a pot into the water, and wait. The water answered. Jane's hand flew to her mouth as the surface churned and a shape rose from beneath it. A woman, if you could call something so unnatural a woman. Water clinging to her like a second skin, her voice carrying across the hollow with a clarity that made Jane's skin crawl. "You've grown quieter with each visit, Potter," the keeper said. "Guilt suits you badly. I know what it's costing," Sebastian said, his voice raw in a way Jane had never heard from him. "I see it in their faces every day, and yet you keep coming." He didn't answer. He didn't need to. "Every masterpiece," the keeper continued almost gently. "1 year taken from someone in your village and given to you instead. You are younger now than you were the day you first found this spring, Sebastian. Did you think that was an accident?" Jane's fingers dug into the stone she was hiding behind. A year. Taken. Given to him. Every name on her mental list rearranged itself in an instant. The pattern she had suspected suddenly, not a pattern at all, but a plain, terrible truth. If you felt that chill just now the way I did writing it, comment below the moment you knew Sebastian was the one to blame. And like this video, because Jane is about to make a choice that could get her killed before sunrise. She didn't remember running home. She only remembered arriving at Elder Elizabeth's door, breathless, shaking, the words tumbling out of her faster than she could shape them into anything coherent. Elder Elizabeth listened in silence, her old eyes unreadable, and when Jane finished, the elder said only, "That is a heavy accusation, child, against a man half this village believes was blessed by God himself. I saw it, Elder, with my own eyes. Then we will see it with ours." It took 3 nights of careful, silent watching. Elder Elizabeth and 2 trusted elders hidden among the same pale stones Jane had crouched behind, before Sebastian returned to the spring again. What they witnessed matched Jane's account in every detail, and more besides, the keeper's calm explanation of stolen years, delivered without a flicker of shame, as though cruelty were simply the valley's oldest and most ordinary business. It was Elder Elizabeth who finally spoke, stepping forward before the others could stop her, her voice cutting across the clearing like a blade. "So this is where our children's years have gone." Sebastian spun toward the sound, and whatever composure he had left drained from his face entirely. "Elder, I can explain. Explain to the mother whose son can no longer lift a sack of yams." Elizabeth said, "Explain to Mama Nkechi, who built this village with her own 2 hands and now can barely reach her own well." The keeper watched the exchange with something close to amusement, unhurried, entirely unafraid of being seen. She rose fully from the water now, turning her dark eyes toward Sebastian with a slow, deliberate smile that made even the elders go still. "It seems your secret has found its way into the light, Potter," she said. "How fortunate, then, that the valley still has one, more year to collect tonight." She tilted her head, considering him the way a woman might consider fruit at a market stall. And when she spoke again, her voice was soft enough to carry to every hidden watcher in the clearing, and cold enough to stop every one of their hearts at once. "Now, Sebastian," the keeper said, "choose who grows old next." The silence that followed the keeper's words was worse than any sound the valley had ever produced. Sebastian stood frozen at the water's edge, the weight of every stolen year pressing down on him at once. Mama Nkechi's stooped back, Kwame's grey exhaustion, the farmer's trembling hands, all of it laid bare in front of the very people who had trusted him. He looked at Elder Elizabeth. He looked at Jane, half hidden among the stones, her face pale with a horror that mirrored his own. "No one," he said finally, his voice breaking. "I choose no one." The keeper's smile didn't waver. "That is not how this bargain works." "Then take it back from me," Sebastian said, stepping forward, his hands open, empty, offering the only thing he had left. "Every year, take it all back from me. I would rather be an old man tonight than steal one more morning from anyone in that village." For the first time since she had risen from the water, something in the keeper's expression shifted. Not mercy, exactly, but a flicker of surprise, as though no Potter before him had ever offered himself so completely. If you're holding your breath right now, comment the word truth below and hit subscribe, because what happens in the next few minutes decides whether this village ever heals. Elder Elizabeth stepped forward before the keeper could answer. "There will be no more bargains struck in this valley," she said, her old voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Not tonight, and not ever again." She turned to the 2 elders behind her, and by morning the entire village had gathered at the square, summoned by the great gong Jane herself had rung at first light. Sebastian stood before them all, no longer the celebrated Potter whose wealth they had envied, but a man stripped bare, waiting to answer for what he had done. He did not lie. He could not. not with Mama Nkechi's tired eyes fixed on him, not with Kwame's mother standing at the front of the crowd, her son too weak to stand beside her. He told them everything. The valley, the spring, the keeper, the years he had taken without ever once looking closely enough at the faces he was taking them from. The crowd's grief turned to anger, and the anger might have turned to something worse, had Elder Elizabeth not raised her hand for silence. His punishment will not undo what has already been taken, she said. But there is still a debt to settle, and a valley that must be closed before it takes anything else. Every masterpiece pot in Sebastian's compound was gathered and shattered in the square that afternoon, generations of impossible beauty reduced to shards at the villagers' feet. His silver was distributed among the families who had lost the most, though no coin, Jane knew, watching Mama Nkechi's trembling hands accept a portion she hadn't asked for, could truly repay a stolen year. Sebastian's fence, his compound, his horse-drawn cart, all of it was left behind as he was led from the village that had once celebrated him, banished to wander farther than the silent valley's borders had ever reached. But the spring, Elder Elizabeth reminded them all that evening, was still flowing. That night she led the villagers back to the hollow one final time, carrying sacred stones blessed by the oldest prayers the village still remembered. As the ritual began, the valley, silent for as long as anyone could recall, finally broke its own rule. The ground trembled, the water churned violently, and the keeper's scream tore through the hollow as the sacred stones settled, one by one, sealing the spring beneath them. Across the village, the change came all at once. Mama Nkechi straightened at her well as though decades had lifted from her shoulders overnight. Kwame ran to the stream the following morning faster than he ever had before. The farmer's trembling hands steadied. Grey threads vanished from young mother's braids as quietly as they had first appeared. And somewhere beyond the village, on the long road he now walked alone, Sebastian felt every stolen year return to him at once. His hands, smooth and strong only days before, began to shake violently. His back bent beneath a weight that had nothing to do with the small bundle he carried. His hair turned white before the sun had fully set, and by the time he finally collapsed beneath a lone baobab tree at the road's edge, he was no longer the young, hopeful potter who had once knelt at a spring searching for a way out of poverty. He was an old man, decades older than his years, finally understanding, in the last clear moment his mind would allow him, that no amount of beauty was worth a single year taken from someone who never agreed to give it. Years later, parents in that village still pointed toward the hills whenever their children asked about the quiet valley beyond them. They warned them, gently but firmly, never to seek a blessing that costs another person their future. The valley remained silent still, not because it had lost its voice, but because, even now, it remembers every year it ever took, and every family that paid for someone else's success without ever being asked. A short summary about Sebastian and the Forbidden Spring. Sebastian, a skilled but struggling potter, discovers a hidden spring in the forbidden silent valley that turns ordinary clay into flawless masterpieces. What he doesn't know at first is the price. Every masterpiece steals a year of life from someone in his village. As his wealth grows, the village quietly withers. The strong grow frail, children lose their energy, mothers gray overnight. When Jane uncovers the truth and the elders confront him, Sebastian offers to take back everything himself. But it's too late to undo what's already been taken. The village destroys his wealth, banishes him, and seals the spring for good. And every stolen year returns to him at once, aging him decades in a single evening. Lessons I have learnt so far when writing this story. 1. Success built on someone else's loss is never truly yours to keep. 2. Small, quiet harms add up. Just 1 year from many people becomes a village's suffering. 3. Silence and avoidance don't erase guilt. They only delay the reckoning. 4. Truth eventually surfaces, no matter how carefully it's hidden. 5. A debt deferred is still a debt. It doesn't disappear, it compounds.